All right. Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Thursday, September 19th. And we continue to look at a very busy, active hurricane season here. We're watching three main areas. We have Tropical Storm Melda's remnants across East Texas that are dumping colossal amounts of rain. We also have the leftovers of a Hurricane Humberto, still a hurricane technically, but will become extra tropical soon as it gets caught up in the jet stream in the North Atlantic. And we have newly upgraded Hurricane Jerry making its approach to the Leeward Islands over the next few days. So those are our main players. We have a couple of areas of interest across the Caribbean and the open Atlantic. And then in the North Pacific, we have several other systems to talk about, which we'll hit real quick at the end of the video. So starting off with Imelda down there in Houston, Texas. It's been a pretty bad situation, guys. The situation has really gotten critical today. The rainfall totals have exceeded the initial expectations of about 1 to 2 feet, and we have eclipsed that. And now our new storm standing total is 41.81 inches, which is pretty amazing. You can see the long-term radar loop here starting from this morning. You can see this deep south flow just continue to train more moisture into the area. The problem that's really making Imelda so bad for parts of East Texas is it's not just a remnant surface circulation from a typical tropical depression or tropical storm. This has a powerful upper low component attached to it. It has its whole life cycle. The storm started from an upper level low that moved across the Gulf of Mexico and moved up into this area. So it's had that feature the whole time. Remember, this was a storm. This was what originally pulled Dorian to the Bahamas and then broke off, went across Florida, and went all the way across the Gulf. So this system has been a very it's been a system for a long time, and Imelda was born off of it on the surface right before landfall. So not only do you have a surface remnant tropical cyclone, but then the upper levels you have a strong upper level system feeding it and helping to enhance the thunderstorm activity. And the combination of the two has kept that warm Gulf flow going, has enhanced the thunderstorms in the mid to upper levels, and there's an upper level area of stronger winds that are also kind of creating that divergence aloft, which is fueling these long-term, long-training thunderstorms that are dumping incredible 2, 3, 4 inch per hour rainfall totals and exacerbating a terrible flooding situation. So looking at the numbers here this afternoon, Imelda now fifth wettest tropical cyclone in the United States history at 41.81 inches. All these storms have occurred on the East Texas coastline with the exception of Hurricane Easy in 1950. This is a storm that stalled over north central Florida. But of course, we remember Hurricane Harvey in 2017 that dumped over 60 inches of rain in parts of East Texas. But several of these systems now, Imelda is quickly joining their ranks, and I stress the rainfall is still falling at this hour. Looking at the GIS info for the weather, the rainfall still to come. Um, this wasn't at 8 a.m. So some of this rain will have been lowered since then, as far as the forecast. But as of 8 a.m., we were still expecting another 6 to 10 plus inches of rain to fall from the storm in parts of northern Houston and then off to the east near Beaumont and whatnot. So looking at this kind of totals, we can assess that we may see rainfall totals approaching 50 inches when this is all said and done, which could catapult Imelda to be up to the highest, or second highest, rather, tropical cyclone in United States history as far as rainfall totals. Now, the rainfall hasn't occurred over massive, huge areas, kind of like Harvey or Florence did, but who has it has gotten a lot of it, and the flooding situation is critical. There's a state of emergency declared in 13 counties, and it has become a very serious situation in parts of East Texas today. So definitely be careful in that area, and if you know somebody in there, please check on them because this is not a good situation at all. Even though they're no stranger to this, they've had storms like this, and then like Allison in 2001 dumped like 35 inches. So you have that, and maybe the tax day floods. I mean, this has happened before, but this is pretty serious as far as even for them. This is getting pretty serious. So we talked about Hurricane Humberto real quick. Talked about it briefly in the intro, but it passed Bermuda yesterday, a little tiny island of Bermuda, where wind gusts were clocked as high as 123 miles an hour, which is pretty impressive for a storm like Humberto, considering how far away it still kind of was as it passed. But no less a powerful hurricane as it moved by. And we can thank Humberto for this backside flow that's actually bringing some cooler air from the north across the eastern seaboard. So that's nice of him. But Humberto is going to move off and get absorbed by the jet stream and complicate what's already a really busy North Atlantic. I would hate to be someone on a ship traversing the Atlantic this time of year. It would not be fun. But let's go ahead and get over to Hurricane Jerry, our friend down here As we zoom in a little bit, Hurricane Jerry, as of 11 a.m. from the National Hurricane Center, winds up to 75 miles an hour. It's moving to the west northwest. It's 16 miles an hour, and it will come dangerously close to the Leeward Islands over the next day or so. Expected to pass by tomorrow evening, so a little more than 24 hours from now. Looking at the water vapor loop, we'll start with this satellite imagery. We can kind of see what's going on. The upper level high here, kind of steering Jerry to that west northwest motion here, and we can see that the environment around Jerry is pretty dry. There's actually some Saharan dust right here, but you can see overall there's dry air pretty much surrounding Jerry, and there's also this little upper level low. It's not a real strong one, but it's enough to produce some northerly wind shear on the storm. So you've got some northerly wind shear passing over the storm, and you also have this generally dry environment Jerry is mostly entrained in. So in turn, the storm is strengthening still, but it's not nearly at the expectation of or the rate that we might be have seen if none of this was occurring. Jerry does strike me though as one of these storms that, although is hampered, still has a very strong core. The thunderstorm activity is remarkably consistent in this thing, and still some of these cloud tops are very strong. So I think Jerry's one of these storms we've seen kind of like Dorian and maybe some of the other ones like in 2017 that just had these really strong cores. And, even when you got them in some unfavorable conditions, they would persist in spite of. So I think Jerry is still going to remain a hurricane despite its environment. And I think that as it approaches the Leeward Islands, it may come a little bit closer than maybe is forecast right now. You see, again, the Hurricane Center's track does keep it north of the islands, which is the Leeward Islands are right here. But I believe that, it might track a little bit further south. There's this upper level high that's going to build over Jerry. This is about 24 hours from now. So you see this upper level high and this more northerly flow. If Jerry remains a hurricane and stays, taller in the atmosphere, it may get bumped a hair further south and some of these forecasts are maybe indicating right now, but we'll see how that plays out. But either way, there's a huge break in the ridge coming up here, even in the upper levels. There's a huge upper level low, or basically an upper trough that's kind of got this half of the western part of the Atlantic is basically the gates wide open. You have the clockwise rotation around this high, you have this rotation around the low, and all of this should coax Jerry up and away through pretty much all the levels. You can see here most of our computer models tend to agree. Virtually all the hurricane models have the turn well before the Bahamas, and also most of our ensembles from both the ECEMWF, which is the European model, and the GFS indicate that turn will also occur. The only outliers, a few European models that go real strong with the storm, do keep it further south, which could be an issue, and I still think that could possibly be a thing, but I don't believe Jerry will be able to intensify that much. So those ensembles are probably overestimating the intensity and therefore probably aren't too accurate. And you can see, though, otherwise, virtually all the Euro ensemble models are also expecting the turn to occur before the Bahamas. So in all likelihood, Jerry is going to turn out to sea and not be an issue for us. It's just worth watching just to make sure over the next few days. And unfortunately, Bermuda may be bracing for yet another storm if Jerry does wind up making that turn as forecast, because it's likely to be a hurricane as it does move through the next few days. So something definitely to watch here going into the next week. Elsewhere, we do have three different systems in the eastern North Pacific, real quick to talk about. Tropical Storm Kiko is just wandering. It's been wandering for like a week, and it's going to wander for another week. We also have an area of interest near Kiko that could try to form up near it. Tropical Storm Mario moving off to the north, and Tropical Storm Lorena moving off to the north. Mario will stay pretty far offshore, but Lorena is actually expected to re-intensify into a hurricane as it crosses the southern Baja Peninsula and then move north, producing hurricane conditions on the northern Mexican coastline. And I am a little bit curious on this storm late week to see if this does make it back over into the eastern or the southwest United States for some enhanced rainfall totals. There has been a desperate need of rainfall. The southwest monsoon never got started this year across the Four Corners in Southern California. So this might be able to help some rainfall totals. So we'll see next week if that has any kind of play in the long-term weather outlook. But we'll have to see how that goes. So, anyway, guys, that's what I got for you today. So we're just keep watching this area and this stuff in Texas. It's not good news and it's very bad. And they're going to need a lot of help to clean up from this. The water rescues and whatnot. Humberto's cooler air along the east coast as it moves off, and then I believe Jerry is going to turn and get out to sea. So hopefully no big issues there, but it does bear watching until it starts making that turn. You never know. So that's what I got for you here this morning. As always, appreciate you watching and have a good one.